What is going on, everybody? Today the Jeep is back, although it never really left, but it kind of did. We'll get into that. Anyway, for those of you who have been watching the channel for a long time, you remember this Jeep. This is my 1979 CJ5, and this is the Jeep that was pretty much the first Jeep vehicle that I built. And this was really my daily driver back through high school and college. My very first daily driver was a 99 Ford Escort, and that was my grandma's car, of course. And you know, being a car guy and growing up with, you know, cars around me and stuff like that, I really wanted something cool and fun to daily drive. But of course, being in Toledo, Ohio, I had to account for winters and, you know, the snow and stuff like that. So trying to figure out something that I could have that was kind of cool, but also at the same time being able to daily drive in the winter, I ended up with this thing. So this thing has been off the channel for a long time, about 4 years. Actually, I take that back. It's been parked for about 3 years. And the main reason for that is the front brake caliper was seizing up on me. And as you guys have seen in the last few videos, our shop is pretty well packed with cars. So I didn't really have any space to be able to pull this thing in, tear the front end apart, and, you know, at least pull the caliper off and figure out what was going on with that. And then along with that, you know, the body on this thing, like I said, after daily driving it through Toledo for about 5 years, I think it was about 5 years is how long I daily drove it, the body is starting to get really rough. And at some point I wanted to do a body swap on this, put a fiberglass body on it, and I'm sure you guys know how that goes. It's just gonna kind of get out of control from there. Once you put a body on it, well, I wanted to do a 4-inch lift, so, you know, new suspension parts, and then you're gonna blast the frame, get that all painted. You know, you're not gonna put the stock wiring harness back in it because, you know, it's the original wiring harness and it's all hacked up. So, I mean, you can easily see how this is going to very quickly become a nut and bolt restoration just from the body is now crap. But essentially what happened is, like I said, if you guys saw the El Camino video, you know that I no longer live in Toledo, at least full time. So I am here in the middle of BFE Nowhere, Ohio, which is about 2 hours away, and I live in an apartment complex, so I don't have a garage, which means I can't bring all my cars down here. So pretty much what I've been doing is, in the summer, I got a storage unit, and I've been trying to bring down one car in the summer, you know, just something fun that I can have down here. And I was trying to figure out what to bring down here this year, because last year I brought the El Camino down, and I was pretty much stuck between the MG, the Nova, and I guess the Jeep was kind of on the board, but like I said, it had been parked for 3 years, hadn't been started, just sitting in our unheated garage. And, you know, the Nova, I like to keep that around Toledo just because we have some big shows that we go to out there. You know, that's kind of a fun car to have for that. The MG historically hasn't always been the most reliable, and like I said, being down here with a 1-car storage unit with no power, I have a basic mechanics tool set, but, you know, I don't have a toolbox full of stuff or, you know, anything like that. So that was kind of iffy. And then as I was trying to figure out, you know, what could I bring, I said, you know, the Jeep would be really cool down here. It'd be really fun. But, you know, the thing hasn't run in forever, and, you know, it looks like crap kind of with the body. And I finally came to the conclusion that, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. You know, this is more at this point a sentimental vehicle to me. Like I said, it's the first vehicle that I kind of built myself, you know, customized and put together. And I said, you know what, screw it, let's get it back on the road and let's bring it down here. So what I ended up doing was putting new calipers on the front. That took care of the braking issue. And then I am really shocked. Like I said, this thing sat for three and a half years in an unheated garage. And I never showed you guys what we did drivetrain wise to this thing, because that was pretty much, I think, where we left off, is I was going to swap into 360 V8 instead of the stock 304. And, you know, I was really concerned, man, is this thing going to run? Is it going to have issues? Since, you know, it's been sitting for so long. She fired right up. She was ready to go. So I guess now that you guys know why it's back and where it's been, let's show you what we've done in the time between the last time you saw it, when it was practically bone stock mechanically with a 304 and a T150 3-speed to what it has now. So let's start with a brief walk around of the vehicle in case you guys don't remember it, and then we'll hop under the hood and see what's under there. So we'll do a very brief walk around. Like I said, everything that you're seeing right now is pretty much the same way it was back before I did any of the drivetrain stuff, aside from, like I said, the body is in a lot rougher shape. But currently this is a steel body, original tub, and obviously she's got some beauty marks. This was not from me, I just want to clarify. This happened the day before I picked the car up when I first bought it. When I went to look at it, thing was pristine. Came to pick it up, noticed this, and the guy said I was just showing the car to somebody yesterday. He forgot to latch the hood latches down, and this does not work. And he said about 20 miles an hour, hood flipped up. So hood is trashed. That was always that case. But the rest of the body, you know, she's really starting to show some wear. We've got a lot of bubbling going on, a lot of cracking. The rocker panels here, or rocker trim piece, this is all starting to flake pretty good. Common on this doesn't really matter, you know, condition wise. This is almost on every single CJ Jeep you see. You'll always see these spot welds all the way down the quarter panel. But you know, that's just character, right? You know, it's hard for me because I've always come from a family of having a pristine paint job and always having everything look really nice. So I'm still getting used to this. But wheels and tires, these are actually the same that have been on the Jeep since I bought it. These are 15s. I don't recall how wide the wheels are, but these are 32.5 by 11.5. So sorry, 32 by 11.5. And these tires, I really should probably swap them out because they are Sears Roebuck tires, road handlers. And I did find a date code on here. Is that it? Yeah. So this is a 2-digit code. I don't know if you guys can see it real well, but it says 06. So that is either 1986 or 1996. If you guys know when Sears stopped making this tread pattern, I'm guessing it's an 86, but honestly, it's in excellent shape. All 4 tires are in great shape. There's no dry rot, no cracking, anything like that. So I've just been sending it, you know, with this has original steering components on it, so it's not like I take this thing on the highway anyway. But yeah, if I was smart, I'd probably put new tires on it. But like I said, a guy wants to put 35s on this thing at some point, so I don't really see a point in spending $1,200 to put 32s on it, or probably squeeze 33s in there, when at some point I'm just going to put 35s on it. So that's why it still has tires on it from 1986. Back is pretty much identical, as you can see. We do have the bikini top on it. The bumper is really starting to show its wear. This thing is junk, and I never really planned on keeping this bumper anyway. But here you can see, I'm assuming there was a patch or something in here. Big old spot right here. But, you know, whatever. On the inside here, there's a couple things that have changed. More cosmetic than anything. First things first, we got the footprint gas pedal. You know, you gotta have that. Along with the Hurst T-handle shifter, gotta have that. 3-spoke chrome steering wheel. I think this was on it back before I did the motor swap. This is one of the first things I changed out. And then we also did put a kind of knockoff SunTac on here, just so we can see what kind of RPM we're running at. The dash panel, if you guys remember, this had this really cheesy radio hacked into the dash here. And that radio took a crap because we had probably 5 gallons of water leak down through the windshield in a rainstorm, and that got fried. So I got this nice little polished stainless dash plaque to kind of cover all that. And then in the meantime, I did get the center console, which has a spot for a radio in it, but that's just never really been on the priority list to pop a new radio in it. But aside from that, stock seats. It's got a carpet in it, obviously. Nothing too fancy going on in here. Where all the really fun stuff comes into play is under the hood. So give me 1 second to pop this open and we'll show you what we've got under here. All right, now the last time that you guys saw this, it had a 304 in it, which was, from what I could tell, the original motor, and it had a 3-speed T150 transmission in it. My plan was originally to basically just clean up the 304 and put some new seals and gaskets on it because it was leaking like a sieve. That turned into, well, the motor's gonna have to come out to do a rear main seal. So, you know, if I'm gonna have some stuff apart on the motor, I might as well at least put a cam in it, you know, and clean some stuff up, because I had no idea how many miles are really on that motor. It ran great, never had any issues. It now shows 72,000. I remember back in the day, it had like 60-some thousand. So, once again, I don't know if that's rolled over. No idea how many miles were on the previous motor. So, you know, I was gonna plan on putting a cam and stuff like that in it. That turned into, well, you know, for you AMC guys out there, the 304, 360, and 401s externally are all identical. I think the only differences are stroke, maybe, bore size, and I think the cylinder heads are different. So what I'm saying is that to put a cam and, you know, an intake or whatever I wanted to do on a 304 is going to cost the exact same to put it on a 360 or a 401. I would have loved to find a 401, but man, you AMC guys are nuts with those prices on those 401s. It's just, whew. So I found this 360, and it was a completely assembled long block. It had like 200,000 or 300,000 miles on it, so it needed to be torn apart. Tore it all the way down to a bare block, got it machined, and then from there, I ended up doing a comp cam. This is it's an XE262H, I believe. So it's a roller flat tappet cam. It has, one of the big things that I did to this, because I was going to daily drive it summer, winter, is I got a Edelbrock ProFlow 4 fuel injection setup. And the thing that drew me to this was that it's not a throttle body injection setup. As you can see, it does have fuel rails on it, because personally, I've never heard good things about like the Holley, you know, throttle body stuff or any of that. So this had just come out for the AMC stuff when I put this together. I think it had been out for maybe a year or two. So I was able to see some reviews, heard good things about it, threw it on there. I honestly don't have any complaints about it other than the fact that I'm a carburetor guy, so I have no idea how to tune it. It seems pretty easy. It's just through the app on your phone. You can go through and tune everything. I just haven't taken the time to figure out how to do that all. But aside from that, it was bored 30 over, so it's got new pistons in it. I think the only real things we did was cam, intake. It's got Shorty Patriot headers on it, I believe. You know, we redid stuff like new timing chain, obviously, oil pump, all that good stuff. But aside from that, nothing really else mechanically has been done to it. But this thing does run really strong, especially for a little CJ5 Jeep. She spins the tires. She will trip the tires going into second. She scoots. But the other nice thing about the ProFlow 4 setup was that it came with obviously intake, throttle body. It even came with a distributor. So, you know, that was a pretty nice setup there. And then while I had the engine out, we redid all the brakes. So I now have a new master cylinder. These are all brand new stainless brake lines, front to back, new rubber hoses. We redid the drum brakes while we had it all apart. Obviously now have new front calipers. So front to back, this entire braking system is brand new, aside from the booster. This was one of the things I added a little later on after I put the 360 in. This is an aluminum Champion radiator. It's a 3-row electric fan setup. This thing, it doesn't really run concerningly hot. But if you're parked on like a really hot day for a while, she creeps up there a little bit. And, you know, being a daily driver, I wanted this thing to be perfect. So I did put that in. Running the stock radiator with mechanical fan and shroud on it wasn't horrible. This is definitely a little bit better. But going back to the whole engine origin of how I came up with this scenario, once I decided, you know, I was going to go with this setup, it became apparent to me that this thing was going to be making somewhere between 350 and 400 crank horse, maybe. I'm sure you guys can probably kill me in the comments and say that I'm an idiot for thinking that, but that's what I've seen out there for similar setups. And the one thing I did know was that the T153 speed was not going to hold up to that, at least not long term. So what I ended up doing there was getting in touch with a company, which I will not name, because I didn't really have a great experience with them. Their name is on the side of the transmission if you're that curious. But this is a Ford T19 4-speed, and this would have come out of like a heavy-duty Ford pickup or a dump truck or something like that. So it's able to handle all the torque. And then the company I got it from made a adapter plate to mount it up to the Dana 20 transfer case, which is still the original transfer case. But I had a lot of issues with this trying to get it in. None of the linkages lined up. And then once I got it installed, it had a ton of leaks everywhere. I mean, I came back from my first test drive and there was like 2 quarts of gear lube laying on the floor. And since I've gotten it back, it's now developed I don't really want to call it a howl, but it almost sounds like between anywhere above 45 mile an hour, in between acceleration and decel, it sounds like there's a ton of slop between the gears. And like I said, this thing's only been in here for 5 years, and it hasn't had a ton of miles, maybe at most 10,000 miles on it. So I don't know if bearings are going out or what's going on with that, but for right now, I'm just gonna keep it under 45, because like I said, I don't have anywhere to work on it. So that's what's going on with that. And then along with the T19, we then obviously had to drop down the skid plate, which also acts as your transmission mount and transfer case mount. Going back from there, this is an AMC 20 rear end, and one of the notorious things that these have issues for is they're a 2-piece axle. So the hub is pressed onto the axle, and if you start putting any kind of power or torque through those, they'll basically shear the splines off and your wheel will disconnect itself from the vehicle. So not ideal. I ended up putting Mosier 1-piece axles in it. I didn't do anything with the gears in it. It's still an open diff, but like I said, she still boogies and scoots. Stock Dana 30 front end, I believe. I rarely put this thing in 4-wheel drive. You know, when I daily drove it in the winter, obviously I put it in 4-wheel drive, but you know, this is more of just an around town cruiser as it sits right now. And then other thing that I did was I did a new exhaust on it. This originally just had a single 2-in-1 setup going down the side. I put dual 2.5-inch, I believe, pipes on it. It's got Dynamax. I don't know if these are like super turbo or there's some sort of turbo muffler. They sound pretty good. I originally had them dumped at the axle, and then after I kind of matured a little bit, I realized that was too loud, so I ran it out the back. And that's one of the things that really bugs me, is that this was a brand new exhaust system like 4 years ago. It was right before I parked it, you know, after I was daily driving it, and the exhaust is just super crusty, you know, obviously from all the road salt and everything getting kicked up on it. Still sounds great, but it just looks like crap. I really wish I would have done this in stainless back in the day, but I was too cheap at the time. Anywho, that's pretty much what has changed. Oh, we also put a new fuel tank in it, and with that we put an in-tank electric pump in it for the EFI setup up front. If I were to redo it, I'd probably put an external pump in it, just because, you know, every time this pump had an issue, tank has to come out. It's a massive pain. If I would have just put like a pump in line, I could have just popped that off and done it that way. But, you know, hindsight's 20/20. Aside from that, everything back here, suspension-wise, is bone stock. So these are original springs. I'm sure those are original shocks. You can see the AMC 20 there, holding on strong like a champ. Stock drum brakes in the back that have been rebuilt. And then, I'm not sure if you can see it, but there is a braided stainless line. 2 of them should be for a supply and return line for the fuel. And aside from that, that I think is now everything that we've done to the Jeep since you guys last saw it. All right, so now that you guys are up to date on it, let's go ahead and fire it up so you guys can hear what this thing sounds like. The plan was to have a rowdy sounding cam in it, something that was, you know, sounded really good, had some good power, but also was still streamable. And honestly, I got to give a shout out to Comp Cams. This cam is perfect for that, especially with the EFI setup. It's just, you can daily drive this thing all day long. It sounds awesome. It's got plenty of power for around town, and it's just a blast. So let's fire this thing up, let you guys hear it. Not too bad for an old Jeep. I don't know if you heard it when I first fired it up, it popped a little bit. Like I said, I've never really gone through the tune on this thing and gotten it all dialed in. You see our Edelbrock fuel pressure regulator back there. Electric fans just kicked on. That's the other really nice thing with the ProFlow setup is the electric fans are controlled through the EFI setup. So as soon as it sees 180, it kicks the fans on. Great throttle response. Thing is just a blast. Try and take you guys for a little bit of a ride here. I don't have a camera mount, so you're just gonna have to kind of hold on, but see what we can do. Pretty good for an old Jeep. Noise you hear is the $1.25 worth of change in my ashtray right now, so don't mind that. Ah! Oh, now you're looking at me. Get this freaking phone to sit somewhere. God, I wish I would have brought my freaking phone thing. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it on this video. Hope you guys enjoyed seeing a little update on the Jeep. Like I said, I know it's been a long time, but you know, even though she's a little worse for wear appearance wise, I'm glad to have her back. Like I said, this is the first car that I ever built with my own hands for me, and like I said, it's got a lot of sentimental value, so really glad to have this thing back out here this beautiful summer day, having a blast. So hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure if you have any questions, feel free to ask them down below. Like, comment, subscribe. More importantly, stay safe out there and have a good one.